What's up everybody, this is M Squared, and in this video I'm going to show you how I use the Pioneer DJS-1000 to make beats, to sketch, and to get ideas out. So the first thing you want to do is turn on the machine. Let everything load. Once it loads, you're going to see your first project menu. You have Create New, Open, Save, Save As, Delete, Save as Package, and Render Audio. Click on the dial and start with Create New. It says any unsaved progress will be lost and playback will stop. Would you like to continue? You can touch the screen on OK. Now you have a brand new session, basically. So each square on the screen corresponds to the different pads. So you can touch the pads or the screen to select which track or cell that you'd like to be on. What I like to do first is go to the mixer option, make sure all my levels are where I want them. I'm going to bring my master level down just a little bit. So the first thing we want to do is browse through the sounds. This machine comes with its own set of internal sounds and 2 folders of sample packs from Loop Masters. So let's cycle through some of these just to see and audition some of them. Let's go to house, drum hits, kicks, and now you can audition the kicks. And if you have your own USB drive, I have a thumb drive here. I'm going to load that. Now you'll know it's loaded once you see the flash here and the white light, and you'll see it on the screen. It says samples USB. Let's click on that folder. Now you can cycle through, and all of your own individual sounds that you've loaded on that USB stick, you can now cycle through and audition those files and select them if you'd like. So I'm going to go to my Moose T sample pack, go to drum hits. I'm going to go to kicks because I want to start with the kick. I have this first pad selected, which is pad 1. That's why it's lit up red. So that means it's ready and armed to be selected with a sound. So I'm going to cycle through the kicks. I like this kick, so I'm just going to click on the dial to select it. Now this kick is loaded to this pad. Let's get a hi-hat, the hats folder. Let's do this. I like that loop. So if you want this pad to be your hats, you can just select the pad. It will light up to a different color. And again, click down on the dial, and now you'll have this pad for your hi-hats. Next, let's do a clap or snare. I'm going to click on that pad, go to clap, snares, and start auditioning some claps. I like this one. So that's here. And maybe some percussion. So I'll click on this. If you want to collapse a folder as well, you can collapse it by clicking again on the dial to collapse each folder. Let's see this percussions and hits and loops. Let's see. I like that. I've chosen this pad here, so I'm going to click that. So now we have some shakers. Now if I want to go back to the main view, just hit Utility Home. Now you can see I have 4 different pads loaded with sounds. So now the next part would be selecting your BPM of choice. So I like 120, so I'm gonna select this box and then use the dial to cycle through your BPMs up and down. Let's start with 120. You can also use your pitch slider and adjust it this way if you'd like. Your tempo, I like to lock it and keep it set. You just press this button here to lock the tempo and reset it to the default. The default's 120 BPM. You can see there's also your swing percentage here. If you'd like to swing the beat once you've locked in a sequence or groove, you can dial the swing percentage up this way, and that'll affect the entire groove overall. And I'll also show you in a bit how to shift or offset solo certain individual instruments. The next, you have quantize. The default is on a quarter note quantize, but you have quarter note triplets, you have 1/8, and you can also turn the quantize off. Typically I leave this pattern quantize on pattern, pad sequence start, I leave that on off. For things like kicks and snares, I'll keep the quantize on 1/4. Sometimes I'll have them off just to lay the groove down if I'm not gonna actually touch the sequencer. If I just feel like playing the pads myself, I'll just leave the quantize off and then quantize it after I've laid down my pattern. So let's do it like that first. I'm going to lay down my pattern with the pads, and then I'll show you how to do it with the sequencer. So the first thing I want to do, hold down the utility home button. That'll take you to the utility menu where you'll see other options in the screen. I like to have a count in for recording, so I'll just click on count in and turn that to 1 bar. Again, I'll click on the dial to select it. Next, we want the metronome. I like to have the metronome off, but you can turn it on. I just like for it to come on at the count in. You just hit the utility button to get you back to your main screen with the pads. So now that I have my sounds, I'm going to record my kick. I'm going to press on the record button to arm it, start my count in. I hit the play pause button, and then I'll start laying down my pattern. Okay, so I have my kick. What I'll do is I'll click on the kick. If I want to quantize my kick, what I can do is click on sequence down here and click on quantize right here. Quantize will lock everything right on the grid. So that's what we have. So now you have to go back, hold the utility button down, and turn off your count in. Push it down to select it. Now it's off. Hit utility home again to get you back to the main screen. Now you have your kick. Next, we're going to lay down the clap. This time I want to lay down the clap using the sequencer steps and the sequencer buttons here, just to show you another way that you can lay down your grooves or your patterns. So I'm going to let the kick play, and I'm going to actually select the pattern that I want. The kick is here, so your clap is going to be on 5 and 13. Now while that's going, I can actually go to my mixer. I can go to my mixer button here on the screen and choose which pad I want to adjust the levels for. So that clap was kind of loud, so I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. To select the channel that you want, you actually go over with the dial, select the channel, and actually click the dial down. That will highlight it here on the screen, and now you have control to adjust the levels. I'm just bringing it down some. Then you click on the dial again to deselect it. Now, if I want to make that clap a little tighter, I can go in to the clap itself. Go into amp envelope. Once you're inside the amp envelope, you can now adjust your attack and your release and your hold. So I'm going to choose the hold dial, bring that in. Bring the release out. Now I can tighten that clap by bringing in the release. So now it's a shorter clap. All right? So just to get back to home again, home button. That's how I like to do it. And if you'd like to adjust the pitch of this clap, make sure the clap is selected on the screen. And use this dial here to adjust the pitch. I like that at 3. Now let's put our hats in. Hi-hats, just select the pad here or select it on the screen. That's going to be our hat. So that's a loop. So there's 2 ways you can do that. You can take that loop and actually sync it to the groove of your BPM that you're working in currently. So let's try that first. As you can hear, that's a loop. So in order to time stretch it to the BPM of your track or of your session, go to this dial where it says time stretch, turn it to the right until you get to MTMP, which should mean master tempo. Now, once you lay down the pattern for that, you're going to hear how it locks right into the groove of your session. So as soon as I hit the pad, you're going to hear it lock right in. So to lay that down, I could either record it and lay it down by hand like I did previously, or I could actually use the step sequencer again like I did previously as well. So I'm going to use a step sequencer and choose the first. And it's locked in. Now it's kind of right on the grid. It's kind of robotic as far as the way it's recorded. So I'm going to go in and adjust that and make it swing a little bit. So I'm going to click on that track, which is the hi-hat loop, as you can see here. And in order to do that, I'm going to click on sequence down here in this rectangle. Once you're in the sequence window, you're going to see the square or rectangle here lit up that you selected here to start to trigger the pad. So if I wanted to shift it to give it some more of a swing, let's say I want to shift it to the right, all I have to do is go to this first dial that says offset and shift it and turn it to the right and start offsetting it to where I feel like it's to my liking. I'm at 10 now. Now I'm at 16. I like 16. And to get out of that screen, of course, click on home. Now you're back. Those hats are a little loud, so again, I'll go back to the mixer. Make sure I have that track selected in the mixer. Click on it, make sure it's highlighted, and I can start bringing that track down. The next feature I can show you would be the sidechain. So something like that hi-hat loop, you might want to have it duck to the kick. So what you would do is go into the hi-hat track menu, click on effects, where it says none, click select effects. Then you will choose the ducker, but you see you have a few different effects. You have a chorus, flanger, 2-band EQ, filter, delay, lo-fi, compressor, distortion, phaser, and ducker. So I'm going to choose ducker to showcase the sidechain effect that you could put on any sound. Now, if you want your kick, if your kick is the one that you want to be triggering the sound, you want to click on the source. Your kick is on pad 1 or track 1, so you want to make sure you cycle through and select track 1 as your source track. So now that's going to be your sidechain trigger. These dials here, your curve and release, will be controlling the strength of the sidechain. So I'm going to play the track now at full strength with the sidechain, with the kick sidechain to the hi-hat loop. That's at 100%. I can take this depth knob here and dial it back to maybe like 50. I think that sounds good, but I can also shape the curve of the sidechain. I can use this dial. You can see the curve taking shape as I turn the dial. And it's all to your liking. You can can adjust the release. I like it here at around 2.70. Also adjust the attack at the front using this dial at the end here. Like it about here at 0.25. Cool. So now to get out of that, you're going to hit the home button again. It's going to bring you back to that main screen. Cool. So now that we have these three sound sequence, let's take a look at the percussion loop that we chose. So it's a shaker loop. If you'd like to trigger it as a one-shot loop, you can time stretch it here with this dial, and you go to MTMP or master tempo, so it'll lock into your BPM that you're working in, or you can keep it off, and you could also chop it up. So make sure you have the percussion loop selected, hit slice, hold it down, and it'll bring you to the slice menu, so you can set your slices, and it will chop it up at each individual transient. So each pad will correspond with a different chop within that loop. So you can have individual hits, or you can select hot slice, and you can start from any part within the loop, and it will continue to play through from that point that you selected. From the middle, from the front, towards the end of the loop. So what I like to do for this particular one, I'll just use an individual hit, one slice. I like, let's see which one I like here. Okay, I like that slice there. So if I want to zoom in a little bit more, I could use the dial and zoom in to the right, make it larger, and then I can zoom in more on my starting point by using this dial here and adjust it to get closer to a transient that I like. I like that. And also you can toggle through with on the end side as well and dial in the end how long you want it or how short you want the sample. So now you've been able to pick, to shape the sample to your liking. So if I want to record that, all I have to do is go back to the main menu. You could actually stay there as long as you're still within the slice feature. You can see, or you can go right back, hold down slice, and it'll bring you right back to the area you were slicing from. So this is a slice that I chose. This is a slice that I wanted to zero in on, that I'm going to use. So again, we can either program it by hand, or we could select it within the step sequencer. So I'm going to program something by hand. Again, my quantize is off. That's just my choice. I feel like when the quantize is on, it doesn't allow you to play grooves that are unorthodox or, left of center. It'll try to lock you into that quarter note groove. So I keep it off when I'm actually programming. So let's lay down some shaker. And if you want to record on the fly, just hit the record button when you're ready to start, and then you can start laying down your pattern. So I'm gonna choose an open pad here, pad 5. Now all you have to do is either touch the screen to select the pad, or click on the dial to choose the track menu. I'm going to go to browse. Let's cycle through the internal drive. Music loops. Let's try that. I like that pad. Whirly. Keys, strings. like that. So we're going to select that Dusty Road kit. So now that sound has been loaded to this pad. Again, I like everything to be in one-shot mode here. So the trigger mode you see here is one shot. I leave that right where it's at from the home window. Here where it says volume at this knob. So I feel like that sample might be a little loud. So I'll just bring it down a little bit. Turn this to the left. Okay, so next if I want to take this sound and do something like what the MPC has, which is a 16 level feature, or scale it chromatically, all I have to do is choose that pad, hit the scale button, and now it scales the sample across all the different pads. Cool. And if you want to adjust the actual pitch, you can come to the area knob here on the screen and go up and down to give you a wider range of your pitch. I like that. I like to go back to the home menu. So I'll probably use that. I like that. Let's see how it sounds over the drums. All right, I'm gonna actually lay that down. I like that. So I'm gonna do a count in, hold down utility, count in, turn that back on to 1 bar, select it, go back and hit record to arm it, hit play to start. So again, if you want to turn off the count in, go back to the utility menu, hold it down, click on the dial to select off. Now you're back. So as you see here, you have the ability to create a 4-bar pattern. So as of right now, you see there's only 1 bar selected. So if I wanted to extend this to 2 bars, what I have to do is hold Shift, hit pattern, and you're going to see everything light up here. Click on 2. If you want 3, you can click on 3, or you can click on 4. So now the pattern that we just recorded is still on 1, but now you've opened up yourself to have 2, 3, or 4 extra bars added on to your sequence. So to get out of there, you just click on pattern. I selected 4. So now I have 3 additional patterns. Highlight the pattern that I want to start with, because you can click on each one individually and see what you've done or what patterns you have in each sound, for each sound. So if I come out of scale, click on scale to get me back to the regular open pads. These are our original sounds. If I want to see what I did with my kick, just click on the kick and you'll see the kicks programmed here in each pattern. So they've been copied over from pattern 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. So now you have the option of making slight edits to each pattern as you go along. The next thing would be to add some variation within that pattern now that I've extended it from 1 bar to 4. So maybe I want to add a ghost kick on the 2 and the 4 bar. So maybe I want to add something like this. So I'm just going to record that. All right, let's see how that came out. So this kick on the 3rd pattern, I can go in and delete that and come back in and re-record that the way I'd like to. So all I had to do was deselect it and I can go in now and just make that edit myself. So as you can see, it's lit up again, so that means it recorded. There it is. Let's look at getting a bass line in. I'm going to select this pad to load the bass line. I'm going to click on the dial, go to browse. I like that bass loop here. Okay, so I'm going to select that bass loop, go back. So that first note I like, so I'm going to hit slice. And that way you can see, again on the screen, it'll split the transients. And you can go in and zoom in how you'd like. On this particular bass though, I think I want to do it a little differently. So let me show you a different way to chop the sound. So I'm going to go to the pad in the track menu, click playback on the screen. It's going to open the actual sound again. Here's the loop on the screen. I can take the E on the screen and drag it with my finger to any part of the sample that I want to use. So I'm going to take just that first note. I could also use this dial here where it says length, and that will also control the end point. You could also control the start point where it says start on this other dial here to the left. So I'm going to zero in on that by using the dial. Take my finger and scroll over to the exact point that I want to see on the touch screen. I'm going to use the length dial to dial in that first bass note. Great, so now that we have a bass note, we can now set that to the scale. And again, if you hold down the scale button, you can broaden the range as you'd like. So you would take this knob and go left to right to see the area that you want to play with. So I think I like here. So let's play the track. Let's go to the mixer and turn that bass up a little bit. I'm going to lay that down. I like to let it fly in like this. And again, I've left my quantize off so that I can make edits like this on the fly as the track's playing. And it'll keep the groove that I recorded. If I ever wanted to quantize it, I can just go back, hit quantize, and it will lock it into whichever quantize division I choose. Again, we'll keep it off because we like the swing. As you can see, all of the data has been recorded in the step sequencer. It's lit up to the color that you've chosen for that pad. So this, as you can see, that hi-hat, left it on 1. So it's lit up on every pattern, it's lit up to 1. Now the next feature I'd like to show you is the pattern feature. So we're going to click on pattern on the screen. Now you're going to see a scene manager screen. This is the menu that you can utilize. Basically, each one of these scenes, you can count them as different songs if you'd like, or different beats. So each one of these can be a different beat or a completely different track. On the pattern side, you can actually utilize this pattern side, which is what I do, as my sequences within that song or within that beat. So pattern 1 is what you just heard. It's also scene 1. If I'd like to add more variations or arrangements to this track, which is what we're going to do next, all I have to do is click on the screen on the 1, click copy. You're going to see it turn to a dotted line around the rectangle. I'm going to choose the next the open pattern that I want to paste it to. I'm going to hit paste. I'm going to also paste it one more time. Let's see, let's do 4 patterns. So now we have 4 different sequences copied the exact same way. So now if I want to make some changes or arrange it a different way for each pattern, I can go in and do that. I can just hit the pattern button here, make sure it's lit up, and you'll see all 4 patterns showing here lit up, just like the screen. So now I know each pattern has the exact same groove copied to it. If I want to mute certain pads or certain instruments, certain elements, I can make sure the mute button is highlighted and touch the pads that I don't want in that particular pattern. I muted the bass, I muted the melodic chop, I've also muted the hat, and I'm going to also mute the shaker here. So I think this is a good start for pattern 1. So that'll be pattern 1. Pattern 2, I'll mute the same and then decide maybe to bring in one more element for pattern 2. That would be the hi-hat loop. I'll bring in the hi-hat loop for pattern 2. So pattern 2 will sound like this. All right, now pattern 3, we can bring the shaker in. This is what pattern 3 sounds like. Now pattern 4, I may want to bring in the chords. So I'll bring the chords in, but what I'll do before that is I notice I want to add one more pattern. On the touch screen, press where it says pattern. Now you're in pattern 4, scene 1. If I want to add a new pattern, same way, I'm going to highlight the pattern that I want to copy over. I'm going to click copy. Make sure you see the dotted lines around the rectangle before you do anything. Now you're going to select the open pattern, which is 5. You're going to hit paste. So now pattern 4 is pasted to pattern 5. Next, I'm going to go back to my home screen. So now, as you can see, pattern 5 has been added to the step sequencer. Now that I'm on pattern 5, that's when I want all the elements to play at the same time. So now the bass will be in, the chords will be in, and all the drums will be in. I'm going to shorten this pattern length here to 2. So now I've got 2. Just pattern 5. So now pattern 4, I wanted to take the bass out. So I'm going to mute the bass. It's just going to be... All right. I'm also going to cut this pattern down to 2. Same thing. Pattern 3, I'm going to cut that pattern down to 2. Again, that's shift and pattern to select the actual pattern length. Pattern 2, shift, and pattern 1. So each individual pattern, instead of going for 4, I've now shortened it to 2, as you can see by the 2 blue buttons here. And we're going to start with pattern 1, hit play. And once I'm ready to bring in pattern 2, I'm just going to press pattern 2 here. See it flashing. Now it's engaged. Now I want to bring in pattern 3. It'll be flashing. Now. And I just muted the kick there on that turnaround from pattern 3 before I came into 4. And I still feel like that shaker might be a little loud, so I'm just going to go into the mixer, choose the shaker, bring that down some. Pattern 5. The bass, all the elements. Now that we're on 5, we can use the mute function to bring things in and out. As you can see, I muted the hats, the claps, percussion, and the chords. Bring it in. The shaker, mute the hats. Mute the kick. Just have fun with it here. You hear that side chain kicking in with the kick over the hi-hat loop. Now let's talk about effects. On the screen, you're going to hit the effects button. You're going to see high pass filter, low pass filter, dub echo, pitch, lo-fi, reverb, and plate reverb. I like the reverb here to engage the effects. Make sure this blue on-off button is selected, and you're going to see it flashing here. You can go to select track if you want to put the effects on everything. You can do that, or if you want to put the effects on just one individual sound or 2 or 3 individual sounds, you can do that as well. As you can see on the screen, all of the pads that are highlighted are what's going to be affected by the effects pad. So if I hit the track, slowly bring the effects up, you'll be able to hear it affecting everything. Pass filter. reverb. I'll mute the kick for that. You have plate reverb. I think this is pretty cool. This is the pitch bend feature here on the left. You can slide your finger up and down, adjust the pitch. It's like a pitch bend wheel. You use your finger to slide up and down, or you can actually hold it by pressing the hold button. So you don't have to hold the pad or touch the pad. Let's go to sampling. That's the next feature I'll show you. Sampling. So for sampling, it's going to take you to a screen where all the cells or all the different pads are going to be highlighted in red. So that means it's looking to be sampled in. Make sure you have an input selected here from the back side, and also decide what you want to sample from. I'm going to use my iPad to sample. I'm going to take the sequence here and I'm going to use this and sample this into the DJS-1000. All you have to do is select a pad that's open. I'm going to select pad 7 and I'm going to start recording. Now that we have that sample, we can audition it here. Now that came directly from my iPad and we've been able to sample that right in to the DJS-1000. Let's go back to sampling. I can now click on that same pad that I recorded the sample into, click on the dial, and it'll show me the entire waveform that was sampled in. Now I can go to the position dial here and shift exactly where I want my starting point to be in the sample. So that's our sample. Now, just like the other sounds, I can go to scale and actually scale that chromatically. Remember to hold down scale so you can it can show you the range of the pitch. Let's see. What I may do is time stretch this to master tempo. Go back to scale. Now I can try this speed. Okay, I like that. Okay, so now that we have that element recorded, I want to add a new pattern. Go to your pattern option on the screen, choose pattern 5, hit copy. Make sure you have the dotted lines around pattern 5 since that's the pattern you want to copy. Go to pattern 6, which is the open pattern, hit paste on the screen. Now you have 6 patterns. I'll go back to pattern 5. I'm going to mute that in pattern 5. Pattern 6. So if you'd like to save what you just created, you can go to Project, go to Render Audio, make sure the Master button on the screen is selected. That's going to give you basically the 2-track of what you've done on that particular pattern. So I'm on pattern 6, that's with all the elements. So if I want to also make sure I have all the elements separated or soloed, I'm going to click on each track or pad to make sure all those elements are selected, and they will be saved to the USB as separate individual tracks. And then you'll also have the master as well. So now that I've selected tracks 1 through 7 or pads 1 through 7 here, I'm going to click on render on the screen. As you can see, it's rendering. It says rendering successfully. Click OK. And now you have the track you just made as a 2-track stereo file, and you also have it as individual tracks. So you can solo, you can copy and paste, arrange. You can take this to your DAW, whether it's Logic Pro or Ableton. This machine can do so much more. I just wanted to show you how to get started to make a track. This thing is a beast to use live as well. You can adjust the tempo here. You can nudge the tempo, things like that. While you're playing live, you can trigger samples on the fly and so much more. Live sampling. It's just an amazing performance standalone machine. So there you have it. That's how I use the Pioneer DJS-1000 performance DJ sampler. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.